After paying their mortgage for years, my sister showed up with a can of red paint to ruin my wedding. Now she's claiming my house is hers. They sued me. For the house I paid for. For the dog they abandoned. For hurting the family. But this time, the judge heard my voice. I was urged by my parents to spend the holidays at home. They left me to dogs it while they went on a lavish vacation without me after a 5-hour journey. I refrained from arguing. I simply grinned. However, they began to scream when they returned and witnessed this. Let's go back. I received the first text in early December. This year, will you be returning home? It would mean a lot to your dad and me, she continued. Then came the one that really got to me. Without you, the holidays aren't the same. I spent a lot of time staring at that one. It was the type of message I had been hoping for years, a statement I had practiced hearing so many times that I didn't even question it when it finally arrived in my inbox. I grinned. The work had been harsh. There weren't enough people on my team. My sleep routine had changed to include naps in between Zoom sessions. However, I reminded myself, they miss you. They asked for you. So I did what I don't often do. I took a break. I cleared 5 complete days, but it took a whole week of arguing with my manager, changing deadlines, and promising to check in just in case. I purchased a ticket. I even brought along a couple modest presents. I hoped we would actually converse, play board games, and laugh at corny holiday films. It was a lengthy and painful flight. Something that smelled like hot cheese-dipped feet was consumed by my seatmate. I didn't care though. The kind of foolish optimism that endures years of disregard and yet appears with a bow on its head was buzzing through me. With my suitcase in hand and a smile on my face, I got out of the Uber. At that moment, I witnessed my dad's car's trunk opening and 3 big suitcases being crammed inside. I had a fleeting feeling that they could surprise me. Perhaps we were traveling together. This might have been part of the idea. I was witnessing my holiday fantasy evaporate in real time, but then my mom saw me and waved happily. When she called, there she is. Just in time. I blinked. Just in time for what? She stated, the cruise, as though it were clear. We didn't want to leave Bentley alone. She pointed to the dog, who was standing behind the front door, watching me. I believed I had misheard. You're going on a cruise? My dad said, just a quick getaway. And slammed the trunk. We've had a stressful year. Josh, who was in the passenger seat, smiled at me. You'll be fine here. You love quiet. This is perfect for you. He said it as if I were a robot or a rice cooker, something made especially to work in silence. My mother gave me a folded list called Bentley's Holiday Routine while I stood there still holding my suitcase. It contained items such as, rub his ears clockwise, not counterclockwise, and lavender diffuser at 8 p.m. I said nothing at all. I simply grinned and nodded, as I always do when I'm trying not to cry. Already preoccupied, they gave me a quick embrace. I was reminded by my mother to keep Bentley from eating cheese. I was instructed to pick up a delivery that was supposed to happen on Wednesday by my dad. After that, they got into their vehicle and drove off. Nobody inquired about my flight experience. Nobody asked me to accompany them. Nobody even inquired about my meal. And suddenly I was by myself. At a home that I own. I haven't lived with a dog in years, but I officially adopted him since I couldn't refuse my younger brother's request. I secured the door. Bentley crouched at my feet, tail wagging unsurely as he patted over. Whispering, "Hi, buddy." I knelt down to stroke him. He had the stench of wet socks and dirty comforters. He appeared leaner than I remembered, and his fur was coarse. He had no water in his bowl. He had 2 long nails. And something twisted inside of me. I sat down on the couch, filled his drink, removed the food they had left, and gazed at the flickering Christmas lights as if they were about to rearrange themselves into an apology. However, nothing took place. There was silence in the house. The heat turned on. Bentley balled himself up. I had a strong belief that this year will be different. That perhaps they were at last prepared to see me as their daughter, not just as the one who sends the money when the car breaks down or the kitchen renovation goes over budget. Their sister. I was mistaken. I felt foolish forever holding that belief. For always believing that they would eventually find me worthy of staying at home if I put in enough effort, achieved enough success, or proved myself helpful enough. Rather, they viewed me as an easy fix. Dog care is free. As well as integrated home security. On-time arrival of their own tiny robot. I made an effort to shake it off. That was what I had done all my life. Making justifications for them. Not personal, I told myself. Because it was simply difficult to love me. That perhaps if I made a few more changes. I tried not to cry as I rubbed my temples. The scent of candle wax and cinnamon filled the air. There were decorations all around me that I hadn't hung. They didn't thank me for paying off the house. Watching a dog that they no longer cared for as soon as the novelty wore off. What's the worst? I still desired a call from them. Even so, I wanted them to reverse the vehicle and say, "We're sorry. We didn't realize. We love you. Please come with us." However, they refused. They didn't. Bentley sighed quietly as he slept. After giving him a long look, I went to the kitchen and turned on my laptop. Really, I had no idea what I was looking for, but I was certain that I couldn't continue to act as though this was the norm. Since it wasn't. And perhaps, just possibly, I had had enough of waiting for someone else to notice. Bentley cuddled himself on the couch beside me, putting his weight on my leg as if it would help me stay attached. He smelled of old shoes and melancholy, and his fur was patchy and matted. I didn't mind though. The only one who hadn't gone was him. No one came out to say, "Surprise? We didn't actually abandon you, we were just kidding. We do love you." I continued to stare at the empty living room as if I was still expecting for someone to do so. I had no idea why it struck so forcefully. Perhaps because I had persuaded myself that I was more important than I actually was. That they would ultimately regard me as more than just the girl who paid for things if I simply continued to provide. Perhaps as someone they desired to be around. I always believed that they would let me in if I could simply correct whatever was wrong with me. Growing up, I assumed that. That something about me must be flawed. There was a missing component that caused folks to shrug rather than embrace. It was me who was strange. The silent one. The girl who color-coded her books, who enjoyed creating Excel spreadsheets, and who liked math problems more than makeup. When I was 10 years old, my mother half-jokingly remarked, "You weren't the easiest child to bond with." Everyone said that my brother's taunting of me was simply an expression of their affection. They said I was overly sensitive when I sobbed. So I stopped crying. That also didn't help. On one of my birthdays, I believe I was 8 years old, they threw me a party. I was ecstatic. My brothers even claimed to have invited the kids from the neighborhood. I brought out cupcakes that I had prepared myself and donned my finest clothes. However, there were no individuals in the yard when I arrived. Just a sheet of paper with arithmetic problems and numbers on it taped to the fence. Josh had chuckled and said, "Your kind of party." After that, they all hurried to another person's house for the actual party. I spent hours sitting on the porch steps. Even the equations were solved by me. Perhaps it was the secret, I thought. Perhaps they would return if I figured them all out. They didn't. I believed that I could fit in better by high school. I made an effort to chuckle when appropriate. Despite the fact that the garments didn't feel like mine, I borrowed them from Dorothy. In order to avoid looking strange, I practiced smiling in front of the mirror and joined clubs that I didn't care about. I was still referred to as intense, aloof, and somewhat robotic. I once heard Dorothy say, "You're not ugly." I tried to learn how to act like a real girl, but you simply don't know how. Even so, I was the one who was overlooked for the invitation. The person who solely received thank you texts in response to Venmo requests. The person who was often told, "You're just really hard to get close to." My parents did not attend my graduation, saying, "We're proud of you, honey, but just don't let it go to your head." I was accepted to an Ivy League school. They claimed that plane tickets were too costly. Until I saw pictures from Josh's birthday vacation to Cabo that same week, I thought they were real. They simply had a stronger bond with him, I told myself. That it wasn't intimate. That they would start seeing me if I could simply be more of anything. I received my degree. I was hired. Whenever they requested money, I sent it. The mortgage on the home they occupied was paid by me. In fact, I assisted Dorothy during her divorce. Perhaps, I reasoned, charity could take the place of intimacy. Perhaps if I put enough effort into them, I would ultimately make up the difference. However, if someone has chosen not to love you, no amount of offering can change that. I finally felt it, not anger, nor even betrayal, as Bentley shored against my hip while I sat on that couch. Only a faint, sluggish realization. In their lives, I served as a stand-in. A human-sized financial strategy. And I felt like the world's most stupid person because I ever believed I could be greater. I surveyed the mess they had left behind. There is food on the counters. Soiled dishes. Boxes that are not fully packed. Even when I was returning home for the first time in a year, they seemed unconcerned about keeping the property tidy. Because I wasn't truly a guest in their eyes. The assistant was me. The accountable one. The integrated safety net. Bentley appeared thinner than I had recalled. His water bowl smells strange, And his nails were too long. He gave a small whine when I knelt down to scratch behind his ears, as if he had been waiting weeks for someone to notice him. My head was leaning on the wall. Perhaps I was the issue after all. I could be difficult to adore. Too silent. Too weird. Too clinical. In an attempt to identify the exact moment I became invisible, I relived every interaction I had ever had with my family. Perhaps I shouldn't have gone. Perhaps my success made me conceited. Perhaps I gave up trying. Or perhaps they made no attempt at all. I formerly believed that setting limits was a sign of selfishness, because the only ones who said no were those who were unkind. That sacrifice was necessary for love, especially when it was painful. Now, though, I just feel small now. And worn out. And finished. As I got up, Bentley groaned softly. I filled his bowl with new water and offered him a treat I had discovered in the pantry. I then went to open my laptop at the kitchen table. I just knew that something had finally changed inside of me, but I had no idea what I was doing. Not broken, not detonated, simply moved. I spent a considerable amount of time looking at the search results after typing, "What to do if a family lives in your house rent-free?" I wasn't sure if I would actually follow through on anything. My sense of authority was lacking. I was not feeling smart. I simply felt finished. Let them say I overreacted and was aloof. Let them express themselves as they see fit. They had it already. Bentley pressed his nose against my palm. After giving him a gentle head rub, I muttered, "If there's something wrong with me, at least I'm finally doing something about it." In one of the articles, I hit print. Slowly, as if unsure too, the paper slipped off the tray. It was a Sunday evening when they returned. I remained there. Due to a family emergency, my supervisor let me work from home. Bentley sprung out of his dog bed and gave a bark that was more startled than happy, so I knew exactly when the car pulled into the driveway. My heart was racing more than I wanted to acknowledge as I remained motionless in the corridor. It was like hearing an alarm in a once secure area. The car door slammed. Loud, familiar, reckless voices. "I told you she'd be fine," my mother said. "She loves quiet time." "She probably reorganized the pantry for fun," said Josh. More giggling, I remained motionless. Through the peephole, I observed. The first person to notice was Dorothy. She pulled once more after jiggling the handle. I pictured the gradual boil of entitlement building as her brows knotted in perplexity. "Why is the door locked?" Dad gave his key a try. Nothing. Josh took the next step and attempted to shoulder it. I snatched Bentley up before he could become even more agitated when he barked once more, louder this time. My arm shook a little, but not because I was afraid. Another stuff. Something more subdued. Final. Then there was a knock. "Nicole, open up." The lock jammed. Bentley and I sat on the couch as I caressed his ears. One more knock. Then it was more difficult. Then the beating of fists. "Nicole, what the hell? Did you change the locks?" I didn't respond. I had. I changed the locks 3 days after they departed. I was practical, not angry, though I had plenty of emotion. The home was in disarray. Bentley had been left behind. Damage was evident in several of the rooms. Doors were not locked. Trash that is overflowing. I had every right to safeguard the house because I was the rightful owner. Before taking any action, I spoke with a lawyer. They returned with the expectation that everything would still center on them. "You can't do this, this is our house," cried Dorothy. The floodgates opened at that point. "Nicole, open this damn door right now. We trusted you with the dog and the house, and you don't get to just lock us out like some kind of..." It's not solely yours, however, it was. It has been all along. This place was intended to be transitory when I purchased it 6 years ago. A backup plan. While they were living here, I paid the mortgage until they were able to support themselves again. They never departed, for some reason. In their imaginations, the house somehow became theirs. And I turned into some kind landlord who owed them regular revenue and silence. Slowly, I got to my feet. My hands were shaking, but not in the same way. Fear wasn't the reason. Adrenaline was the cause. My decision is being followed by my body. I approached the front door but chose not to open it. I only used the closed frame to speak. I stated, "I secured the property," in a firm voice. "You left it in poor condition. Bentley was neglected. The house was unlocked. I spoke with a lawyer." Quiet. Then, loud and furious, "Dorothy. You're insane. You can't just change the locks because you feel like it." "I didn't feel like it," I answered. "I'm the legal owner, and I did what was necessary to protect my home." Josh began shouting that he was going to sue me. When Dad suggested that we skip church for my math competition, his voice soared to a level I hadn't heard since I was 15. "You ungrateful brat? After everything we've done for you." I chuckled. I didn't intend to. I was shocked by the sudden, piercing, breathless sound that came out. I said again, "Everything you've done for me? You mean the financial black hole? Free babysitting? Or did you joke about leaving me alone with arithmetic problems at the birthday party?" More shouting. I turned to leave. I informed my lawyer over the phone that they had arrived. She instructed them not to open the door and to inform them that any correspondence should henceforth be sent through her office. Josh then tried to pry open the kitchen window by going around the side. From the porch, Dorothy let out a shriek. The neighbors could hear my mom sobbing as she stood in the yard. Incredulous that the waitress had just given him the bill, my dad paced. I made a police call. I gave the deed, pictures of the house's condition, and the veterinarian's report from Bentley's examination to the authorities when they got there. The cops were composed and competent. They turned to my dad, one of them. "Sir, she owns the house. There's no lease agreement. She has every legal right to secure the property." My mother sobbed. "You're just going to let her do this to us?" "According to the officer, she hasn't done anything illegal." Nobody stood up for my family, for once. Nobody made me the antagonist by twisting the narrative. There were no jokes about me or pitying glances. Just the facts. Just limits. Just hearing me out. The police suggested that they depart and allow any disagreements to be resolved through official legal procedures. My family was astonished, incensed, and embarrassed as they stood there, but they eventually departed. Their car backed out of the driveway, and I watched from the window. I was flipped off from the passenger seat by Dorothy as she turned. Josh yelled something that I was unable to hear. My mother didn't turn around. And I didn't feel like the one left behind for the first time in my life. Uncomfortably, Bentley climbed into my lap, grounding me with his weight. Whispering, "I think we're going to be okay," I said. I had always hoped that they would accept me if I simply repaired myself. That they would notice me if I put forth enough effort, smiled enough, and contributed enough. But I didn't need to be fixed. Perhaps I wasn't broken because I was the quiet one. It might have made me mine. I refrained from crying. I might, I thought, but no tears remained. Just a strong, throbbing feeling of something else: power, calm, release. I no longer felt wounded or angry, just finished. And that can be stronger than anger at times. That should be the end of it, I thought. However, when entitlement has been their love language for decades, individuals like my family don't lose quietly. After they went, I began getting emails 3 days later. My dad came last, followed by my mother and sister. Confusion gave way to anger and then to desperate manipulation. "You've embarrassed us? We don't understand why you're doing this. You're being dramatic, Nicole. This isn't like you." And lastly, Dorothy's icing on the cake. "You seriously need help." I didn't answer. I sent all of this to my lawyer. The escalation followed. Assuming I would be away, they attempted to break in once more, this time in the middle of the night. The security video captured Josh and my dad attempting to force the back door with a crowbar as the motion sensor lights turned on. Once more, the police arrived. Thanks for watching and sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed these stories, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next drama-filled episode.